Hello, tonight our video is basically a review on manipulating negative numbers. Alright, so I would encourage you to pause the video and then do what's on the page and then restart the video and see how you did, just to check to see if your skills are where they need to be with negatives, because so many students make mistakes with negative signs. Alright, so pause your video, solve these 4 problems, and then restart the video. Welcome back from pausing your video. Let's go over these answers. Oh, time's up. Go home. No, just kidding. All right, so the first problem, we're adding 2 negatives together. All right, so when you have 2 negatives, just like 2 positives, when you add them together, you add them and keep the sign. So this is negative 14. Remember the little song you learned in 7th grade, maybe 6th grade? Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract, right? Okay, so these 2 are both negative, so add them to make 14 and keep the negative sign. The next one, okay, these signs are different. So different signs, subtract. So 10 minus 4 is 6. Keep the sign in the bigger number, then you'll be exact. Well, the bigger number is the positive 10, so our answer will be positive 6. All right, the third one, 8 subtract 15. This is the same as adding a negative. Whenever you subtract, it's the same as adding the opposite. So 8 plus a negative 15. Again, we're going to subtract just like we did the previous problem, and we're going to get 7. And this time the bigger number is the negative number. So keep the sign of the bigger number, and we are exact. That's negative 7. And then finally, the last one, again, subtraction is the same as adding the opposite. So this is the same as adding 2 negatives. So same sign, add and keep. This is negative 23. So how'd you do? All right, let's try something else. All right, again, pause your video and then restart to see how you did. All right, welcome back from pausing the video. We have 10 subtract 5. Well, hopefully everybody got that, right? That's equal to 5. Now, if we wanted to, we could have wrote this as 10 plus a negative 5. But we really didn't need to. We know that 10 minus 5 is positive 5. All right, but here's where this comes in handy. Here we're now subtracting a negative 5. So we need to take advantage of the fact that we know subtraction is the same as adding the opposite, right? So I'm going to change this to an addition. And the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. So this problem is, in reality, 10 plus 5, which is 15. Okay, the next one, negative 30 subtract negative 40. Again, I'm going to change it to an addition. I'm going to add the opposite. The opposite of negative 40 is a positive 40. And so now I have negative 30 plus 40. Those are different signs, so I'm going to subtract, which gives me 10. And keep the sign of the bigger number, which is the positive 40. Excuse me. So the answer is positive 10. Okay, and then, oops, here we go. All right, the last one, let's go ahead and change it to an addition. So I'm going to add the opposite. So this is 0.9 plus a negative 2.5. Again, those are different signs, so I'm going to subtract. 2.5 minus 0.9 is equal to 1.6. Keep the sign of the bigger number, which in this case is the negative 2.5. So negative 1.6 is the answer. All right? Okay, so now we're multiplying. Go ahead and pause your video and then check your answers. Welcome back from pausing the video. Okay, 4 times 2, that equals 8. I hope you got it right. And now we have 4 times negative 2. That's going to equal negative 8. All right. Here, there's nothing to solve. I just want you to see this. We're looking at a pattern. If I take the number 4 and I times it by 3, that's 12. Times it by 2, that's 8. Times it by 1, that's 4. Times it by 0, it's 0. And so now I'm timesing it by a negative. I get a negative 4. So see how our pattern is decreasing by 4 every time. So this pattern shows us that 2 positives multiplied together stay positive, and a positive multiplied by a negative becomes negative. Okay, so now let's start with those positive times a negative, right? That gives me a negative 12. and now I'm going to positive times a negative, so that's going to be negative 9, and then positive times a negative, that's negative 6, then negative 3, then 0. Okay, let's follow the pattern. Now we have a negative times a negative. That becomes a positive. Okay, so this pattern shows us that when you multiply two negatives together, you get a positive answer. See that? We have two negatives, that equals positive. Two negatives, that equals positive. All right, so let's go to the next slide. You remember this? Okay, maybe you saw this in 7th grade. I know we revisited a little bit this year. So whenever you're multiplying or dividing numbers together, you can use this to help you remember what the sign is going to be, right? So let me get my little laser. If I'm multiplying a negative times a negative, that means the remaining sign on this triangle would give me the sign of the answer. So a negative times a negative would give me a positive. All right? If I take one positive and times it or divide it by a negative, that means the remaining sign, the answer is going to be negative. All right? So again, negative divided or multiplied by a positive would leave a negative. Two negatives multiplied together would leave me with a positive. And of course, two positives would still be positive. All right, that's all we have for tonight. Remember, read some books.